Good afternoon, Action Research students, ECG 691. This is Tuesday afternoon, April 30th, and I wanted to give a brief summary of the course that we have entertained this spring. I've expressed considerable flexibility due to your schedules and particularly mine during this spring semester, and I appreciate your work and your contributions. I hope the feedback that I've given to you on your documents for chapters 1, 2, and 3 has been somewhat instructive to you. I've also asked you to submit to me a draft of the full package, chapters 1, 2, and 3 in one unit, and to send that back to me by email. And so I will have a record of that going into the fall. Now, I want to say a little bit about what we have done and then where we're going to go. Some of you may need to do some work or do some thinking about that during the month of May or perhaps over the summer before your school is out of session and while your school is out of session. In ECG 691, you can see the screen in front of you. We had 7 general objectives. We identified a problem or an improvement or an issue that we wanted to address in our school. Some of you may have worked collaboratively system-wide, which was fine, to identify a problem or an issue that needed solution. You determined how people and different classes or positions are going to be impacted by the issue itself and by the changes in the issue. You selected members to serve as an advisory committee or an impact committee or a building-based support team or something similar to help you with decisions. It needed to be made up of people who were stakeholders, that is, who had an interest in this particular issue. Number 4, you needed to decide with your committee, or perhaps your superintendent or principal mandated to you, how you were going to make decisions. Are there going to be democratic decisions by consensus, or perhaps just a top-down decision, this is what we're going to do? Number 5 on the screen in front of you, you're to gather information and establish criteria against which to measure the effect of identified solutions. That is, you did a literature review. And before you did the literature review, you looked at the data, what the attendance records were, what the math scores were, whatever, what the recidivism rate was. I'm quoting from some of your different papers. And you decide a baseline of data, information that you already have against which you're going to measure improvements. Number 6, you looked at the literature review. Some of you did what I would call a skimpy literature review. You only had 4 or 5 sources. I scarcely think that 4 or 5 sources is really enough to give a comprehensive view of how others have approached this particular issue in the past. I would suggest, if you don't have a good feeling that what you have chosen as an intervention is actually based in solid research and is a tried and proven method, that you go back over the summer and strengthen that literature search just a bit. And then you were supposed to talk with your advisory committee or the powers that be, and you're deciding on a particular course of action. That's chapter 3, your plan of action. What am I going to do? What am I going to implement and when? Who is going to be responsible for that? What kind of data is going to result from that? That is, how am I going to know quantitatively if this initiative is successful or not? So you have an introduction that talks about your particular institution and the general information about it. Talks about the problem, how you know it's a problem. You have number 2, your literature review, examining issues and studies where this issue has been attacked in the past and some of the methods that people have found for attacking that and how successful they were. And out of that literature review, you should have chosen interventions. that would be similar. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be creative and invent your own. That's for sure. But if you choose one that someone else has used and it has generated good success, then you're pretty certain that you're going to have good positive results from that. So that's what you've done thus far. Now, again, I gave you feedback on grammar and references and things like that, some on content and how you ought to proceed. When we go into the fall in problems 2, we're going to be much more specific and much more demanding, as a matter of fact, about the final product. Let me say to you very quickly, now hear this if you don't hear anything else. As you implement your solution to this problem, I want to make 2 observations. Number 1, you are going to have to accumulate data, if it is possible, by the end of October. That is, you're going to have essentially 2 months in the fall semester to generate whatever results you're going to generate by that time. I'll tell you why in a moment. Now, I know that some of you have projected a plan of action that's going to go completely into the spring of 2020. That's wonderful. I applaud that, and that is fine. You're not going to be able to fully complete or finish your project by October 30th or whenever the end of October comes in the fall. But you must present your paper and have the finished 5 chapters by early November, like before Thanksgiving, well before Thanksgiving. You're going to have about to the 10th of November or something like that to generate your last 2 chapters. So whatever data you have that shows a direction or no direction, that shows increases or decreases, whatever it shows by that time, you're going to be responsible for writing that up in chapter 4 of your final paper. So just keep that in mind. Now, some of you are going ahead with implementations this summer or even during the month of May. That's fine. Those of you who are in school situations may need to do certain things. Take some action during the month of May before you get out of school to kind of lay the groundwork for what you're going to be doing in the fall. If you'll look at the screen in front of you, ECG 692, Action Research 2 objectives are listed there, 8, 9, 10, and 11. You will make and articulate decisions. That means the who, the what, the where, the plan of action, how are we going to implement that. You will implement, number 9 says, the decision or discuss the level of implementation that you're going to achieve. Some of you may talk about what you're going to implement in the fall, and then you may talk about in projection what you're going to implement in the spring. Number 10, you're going to evaluate the implementation. How well did the implementation go? What did you learn from it? What might you do differently? And so forth. You're going to talk about the data that you have accumulated or what you expect to accumulate. You can indicate trends or find preliminary data results from your implementation. And then, number 11, you're going to modify or adapt the implementation as needed, and that's what we might do differently to make it more effective. And this is repeated here under course requirements, as you see on the screen. Number 13, you will write an article based on the implementation of the problem-solving model. That is, you'll write a full 5-chapter article. You've already written 3 of those chapters. Number 4 will be the results, and number 5 will be your explanation or your discussion of those results. And we'll be talking much more about that as we enter the fall semester, about the content of those. Also, that your 2 textbooks that you bought in the spring will also give you information about how you're going to write Chapter 4, the results of your research, and Chapter 5, discussion of the research. I hope this is helpful to you. If you have any questions during May, or you want to know what is appropriate or proper as you proceed with the implementation of this problem-solving method, then please email me, let me know. Remember that in the fall, I will be expecting error-free, that's a high goal, error-free submissions of chapters 1, 2, and 3. Correct all those missing commas, all those apostrophes, all those possessives that didn't have an apostrophe and should have, all of those semicolons, run-on sentences, subject-verb agreement issues. I expect you to have proper italics in your references, retrieval dates from online references, all of those things that I noted and gave you feedback for on chapters 1, 2, and 3 in this term. I appreciate your patience this term. I appreciate what you have done, and I look forward to working with you through the fall. The last thing I'm going to say is that you will be responsible for a public presentation of your research project the third, I think it's the third Tuesday of November, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving break. So that's why we have to complete our writing by the end of October, prepare a PowerPoint presentation to present here on campus on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving break. And then we'll be finished with Action Research 2. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your work this semester. I hope your students and your school or your institution as an agency will profit from your work with this project.